Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of a podcast where we talk about physicality of piano playing and kinesthetic learning. And today, as my guest, I have Karen Wilder. Karen, thank you so much for being here with us today and accepting my invitation to be our guest.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be great conversation because you are someone for me who's an expert in, you have your own Pilates studio, and I've been enjoying watching your videos, helping people to build the strength of their body and feel comfortable in their bodies.
Thank you.
So I would like to start with the question, what is your specialties are and who are your most of your clients?
I've had a lot of Pilates training. I've kind of been a Pilates trek, I guess, for many years. And so I finished I would say it's called the creme de la creme of all the Pilates training a few years ago. And I feel like it really helped me feel more solid about teaching all the different bodies that come into the studio. I teach a lot of people that are mostly women, right? Although men need it. I do have some male clients, but I would say most of my clients are probably 60 and older.
Okay, that's great. And the reason why I thought that you're an expert in the subject of physicality of playing piano, even though I know you're not related to piano playing, I see the problem in most of the piano students, as well as the professional musicians, is being not aware of their body while they're practicing and during performances, and as a result there is a lot of injuries are coming out of the music related activities because of this unawareness. I speak from personal experience because I couldn't practice difficult passages, difficult music for extended period of time. For me, this is very important subject, and I would like to have your input, and maybe you can share some insights about the body alignment and how the musicians can be more aware spine alignment and body form.
Sure. Yeah, I was trying to think about how am I going to bring this to the musicians? The way that I start with anyone that's new in my studio, we do want to bring awareness of their alignment into play because that's usually kind of, over time, that's when something's going to catch up with you and maybe cause you some pain somewhere. Like you said, you were having, trouble with your shoulders. So when anyone new comes in, whether it's an athlete or a parent or a musician, we're going to take that into account. But then we're also going to teach them like the basics, just like you learn the basics in music. We bring it down to a very basic and beginner level. You understand it because we want to educate people on how to care for themselves when they're outside of the studio and they're not in here. One of the big things that I hear from my clients is just actually, if you think about your body, your trunk, if we just take the trunk, it's a box from shoulder to shoulder, from hip to hip, and shoulder to hip. You're making a box with your trunk. So when we talk about the box, and alignment, we want to think of the body as being square, that your shoulders are square and with your ribs and then your pelvis. So you're think of a boring way of just standing up without having any unsquareness come to your anything like a flare of your attitude. You know how sometimes you stand funny. But in here we're talking about alignment. So we want to teach people about their box, that it is, you want your box to be square. You also think about, your right and left hip bone, that your sit bones that you're on, that you're evenly. So we talk about the pelvis as being or equalized. So because we do things in here where people don't realize they're sitting on one hip more than the other, or a lot of times ladies will come in with back issue because they cross their legs, and they notoriously usually cross the same leg over. It's not that they're switching it up every time. So, that will get your hips unequalized. So, we educate on the box because that's a pretty basic, common thing of think about your box, and I have golfers that take their box and they're thinking about their box and their swing. And so, in music, I guess you could think about your box also, that you want to be level on both hips, and that when you're looking from the side at your box, so you think about your ears want to be over your shoulders we want them over your hips, your hips over your knees and your knees over your ankles. And you think about how people stand sometimes. You maybe today, when you're done listening to this podcast, go out and just sit and people watch for a few minutes, and you will see all kinds of things, going on with people, and that the way that they are just not aware of how they use their box. And that's not to say that you can't lean back or you can't round forward and change your box. But the problem that we get into is that over time, looking down at your phone, you establish a new normal. So then you can't lift your chest up. So your head comes up, and then your alignment is really changed. And then you could have some problems from that.
That's amazing, because when you started to talk about box from shoulders and the hips, I unintentionally started like stretching and keeping my back. Like, even you talking about that box made me be more aware and straighten up and sit up straight and kind of like be in the balance within those 4 points. And it's funny, like you mentioned, you observing people. I'm observing my piano students, especially the younger one. The musician would be sitting with the box on their two bones, and because we have to play from one register and reach music on one here, or if we're playing right here on the lower, so it would be very helpful to think about this box, so we're not just like reaching out, right? We're not
Right,
just like moving
right,
to the seat.
right.
We just
Yeah,
need to balance this box
yes,
on the two seat bones. That's why I'm teaching the first thing my students is like sit up straight, your feet on the floor,
yes,
so they can keep the balance and move much easier.
right.
That's this.
Yes. I mean, they like you said, if you have to go to one side, it's okay to lift your hip up. You're going to take the whole box versus like that, right? Then you're going to be in your shoulders or something. So you take the box with you, and yeah, that's not to say that you have to stay on both of your sits bones all the time, but yes, you think of moving the box, and the pelvis goes with you. I would say a lot. It just depends on what you're doing.
So another question I have, I see a lot of students slouching. They play an instrument. And it's not just the piano students, but musicians. Even when they read the phone, so we like tend to sit all the time this way. If you're doing it for extended period of time, what the problems might be developed out of this disalignment, I would say.
When you are rounded forward like that, you can't breathe as well. Things are not lined up for the air to actually come in. Use your lung capacity. Although, nobody may think about that, but they might, get lightheaded or just like a headache because they're not breathing very well. The other thing is that you're going to have these muscles on the back they're going to be stretched out. They're going to be a little like tight, and they're going to be weak. They're not going to be able to pull you back up into your alignment. The head, when it comes off the spine, like an inch and then 2 inches, it just gets heavier and heavier and heavier, and more compression on the cervical spine back here. But, over time, you just lose the capacity to use your abdominal muscles also to help you set up straight. So a lot of things can go badly over time. Something else you could do, because the phone's usually down here, it takes a little more work. But if you bring your phone up, then you might find you don't want to be on your phone that much, because that it takes a little bit of work to hold your phone up versus just hanging. You're like hanging off of your joints here, and you're not using any muscles to really hold yourself together in alignment.
What's the most important? Is it seat bones? Is it the head? Or where does it start?
All roads lead to your core. So everybody kind of always thinks about their core muscles. We're talking about your transverse, the rectus, the obliques, and some of your back muscle, your core muscles. So we try our best to get people connected into their abdominals instead of just lifting their arm. They're a little aware of their pulling in, they're softening their abs. You want the abs to be, it feels kind of almost not right, maybe. You want to see your abs soften and sink in instead of push out. A lot of people will brace and use their rectus, the six pack muscles, and they feel that, right? It's kind of like a bearing down. But your transverse that wraps around like a girdle, it's going to be the one that pulls you in, and it helps to lengthen the spine and put space between the vertebra. We're also going to build strength in the back muscles just to hold you up. In here in Pilates, we would start with teaching you about your box, finding your abdominal muscles, and we always start somebody lying down because that's the easiest way to kind of find your abs, is that you're lying down on a mat, and then you just take a breath and you soften, and you can feel like your waistline kind of draws in towards you.
But this is exactly the exercise that my vocal teacher made me to do. Lay down on my back and put the heavy book on the diaphragm and start breathing and see what part of my body will lift the book up, just to kind of that I can be aware of the deeper breathing as to be able to sing and project the voice. So that's what I find fascinating, even though I speak with not music related specialists and experts, but it's we find something in common because we're using our body to express ourselves, create the music, and just for everyday life, just to be healthy and stronger.
Definitely. You could have some problems, like you said. There's like carpal tunnel could happen. It's a nerve on the thumb side of the hand. It comes through the wrist bones, and so it's a compression, and you'll get numbing and tingling in there. So that could be, from playing an instrument. My kids all played piano, and so I've been to lots of concerts.
Oh, wow.
But sometimes I've seen like somebody really moving their wrist around. I was like, wow, they're gonna run into problems if they don't learn how to keep it long. Like in Pilates, and in a lot of things, like you think of like that blocks the energy. This is just a long line that doesn't. It's not going to create compression, versus that may create some compression in the wrist if it's bent back. Maybe with the wrist, you have to think about how you're holding yourself up, and so a good warm up would be, that you would do a warm up, and maybe some people have to do some stretches. Maybe they have to do some strengthening exercises. So once it's all calmed down, I mean, if something's flared up and you've got tendonitis or bursitis, usually you have to let things get less inflamed before you go in and start back at it and try to strengthen it. But a lot of times something needs strengthening as well.
Our wrist is not separate from the forearm. It has to align with the whole arm the same way as it has to align with the whole box, right? The
I,
spine.
I see a fair number of people that kind of lock their joints. So we really work on trying to get them to undo that so they don't have further problems down the road. But that being said, we also try to get them to like stretch. If they lock their elbow, we like try to get them to stretch the arm as much as possible, but not to the point of locking it. You're definitely right. Like the body is all connected. So, some things we do. In Pilates, there is a lot of really nice exercises that are called pre Pilates, something nice to do for someone that has stiff hands or a stiff joint. It's just getting something moving, because some people kind of halfway do it, but you really want to think of making a ball with your fist and then really stretching your fingers all the way out. I like the ability to actually really stretch, because sometimes people stretch and they're just like, okay, I stretch. No, I'm like, really stretch through this finger, reach through that one, this one, that one, and that one. Like, yes, like, you are really, you could halfway do it, or you could like, ooh, okay, I feel that stretch. And then you feel it, it's strengthening, like you're contracting those muscles in your hand, and then you're stretching the muscles in your hand.
That feels good. Okay, that's very good. Thank you so much for sharing those tips. And I already got much more awareness. How is my body? The body box. That's what I got out of this
Body
this
box.
interview.
Take
Body
your
box.
box. Yeah, I like that. I might just use that, Yulia. You take your box. So you want to think about, if you look at my box from the side, you want to think of, we want to pull the abdominals in kind of towards the back, right? Right. So I always kind of think of making a panini sandwich. But you can also take and actually go and get your box up against the wall so that you could have something to kind of press into the wall, and you could feel your abdominals pulling in and up. You had the exercise of lying down on your back. And that's how we start a lot of people in here. But we don't live like that. So we have to bring people up to standing, and then we have to bring people to standing away from the wall. And then that's when things can go bad. They don't know how to hold their box together in alignment. So the wall can be very helpful for that, in that you get feedback because your like from the bottom tip of your shoulder blade to the base of your pelvis would be on the wall, and your feet would be off of the wall. They'd be away from the wall, most likely, so that you could get your back on the wall. So you could take your body box and put it on the wall and really feel your abdominals working. So that could help you hold your box when you're sitting and playing the piano. You're in the frame of your box even with your legs, because some people let their legs go out to the side. Well, when you have a cello, you have to open the legs a bit, but like you said, you want their feet on the floor. You want them equal on their feet from the toes to the heels and right to the left. So that's like working in the frame of your box so that you would stay kind of in the frame of your shoulders. So that teaches them.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, Karen, thank you so much for joining today and sharing your expertise, and where the listeners can find out more about your practices and how you helping people to straighten their alignment and straighten their body.
So you can visit my website. I'm wilderpilates.com. I'm in the middle of the United States. I'm in Kansas, but I've recently finished something that's free. It's a free guide that you can go to, and I talk about the box as a concept. So like I said, I teach that to everybody, and it's a free download guide that you can get sent to your email. It will give you some videos and a 10-minute real time workout. And there's even a standing workout up against the wall that you'll get.
And we're going to link all that information in the description below.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you.